In the summer of 1992, one of two identical twin boys vanished from their bunk bed in the middle of the night. There were no footprints, no broken locks, no sounds, just a single chilling note. We have him now. Over 3 decades later, the surviving twin receives a letter in the mail. No return address, no postmark, just 6 haunting words. I should have been you. If you love true crime mysteries with emotional depth and haunting secrets, make sure to subscribe for more cinematic investigations just like this. July 19th, 1992. Location: Lyndale, Vermont. At 3:47 a.m., Margaret Kane stands barefoot in the hallway of her farmhouse, staring into her son's room. The bunk beds are exactly as she left them the night before, except the top bunk is empty. Only the outline of her son Ben remains on the fitted sheet, the impression of his small body still visible. A worn stuffed fox lies on the floor. The window is unlocked. There is no broken glass, no struggle, just a folded note on the bottom bunk near Alex's sleeping form. We have him. Do not call the police. September 10th, 2024. Location: Boston, Massachusetts. Alex Kane never liked mirrors. Even as a child, he'd avoid the full-length one in the hallway outside his bedroom, especially after Ben disappeared. His mother eventually took it down, saying it gave her chills. But Alex had long believed it was because she couldn't stand to see just one of her sons reflected back. Now at 40, he stared into the small rectangular mirror in his bathroom. Toothbrush in hand, the electric hum buzzing against his molars. His reflection stared back, slightly sunken eyes, a small scar under his right brow, and that soft cowlick that never stayed flat no matter how much water he used. If Ben were still alive, would he have the same crease near his temple? Would they still laugh about switching classes, tricking teachers, fooling girlfriends? He hadn't thought of that in years. He spat into the sink and rinsed. The letter had arrived that morning, a plain white envelope. No return address. No stamp, no name, just slid under the door while he was out grabbing coffee. At first he thought it was from the landlord or some neighborhood flyer. But when he opened it, there was no AD, no rent reminder, just 6 words scrawled in shaky Alcap's handwriting. I should have been you. Alex stared at the note now, sitting on the table like it radiated heat. He hadn't told anyone about it, not his coworkers, not his therapist, not the cold case detective he still called once a year. He didn't even want to believe it. Something about the handwriting tugged at him like a snag in memory. The capital S slanted to the left. The shape of the T was flat on top, sharp on the right. Ben had written like that when they were kids. Odd. But Ben was dead, wasn't he? Alex's job with the Boston Cybercrime Unit gave him access to tools most people didn't have: surveillance decryption software, AI, enhanced forensic analyzers, voice recognition patches, and, best of all, quiet. He scanned the letter under. A UV lamp. No latent fingerprints. No smudges. But the ink was old ballpoint, faded slightly, like it had been written with a pen that had sat dry too long. Cheap paper. No watermark. No trace fibers. Whoever sent it either didn't care about being found or cared too much and wiped it clean. He opened a folder on his laptop marked Case, Personal, held everything from the 1992 police report. Scanned pages of their parents' interviews, photos of their shared bedroom, their bunk beds, the window latch that was never broken. A picture of the stuffed fox Ben took everywhere. He pulled it all up and stared at the screen, then down at the letter again. I should have been you. If it was some cruel prank, it was a deep cut. And if it wasn't a prank, he exhaled through his nose slowly. He'd left Lyndale, Vermont. For a reason. He moved to Boston and changed his name legally at 25 from Alexander Kane to just Alex Kane, new spelling. He hadn't seen his mother in 6 years. His father had died of cirrhosis before that. It's only one person in the world still called him Xander, and that person had been missing for 32 years. By 9 p.m., he couldn't stop pacing. The envelope lay on the kitchen table like a dropped weapon. Every time he looked at it, it pulled at something deep inside, something scarred over and shut tight. Finally, he opened his closet and pulled out the old box labeled Family, Do Not Open. He hadn't touched it in over a decade. Inside were photographs, old report cards, Two dusty VHS tapes labeled birthday, age 7 inches, and winter at cabin. Beneath them, a Ziploc bag held the stuffed fox Ben's fox. It's faded orange, one ear missing, the button eyes scratched but intact. He held it like it might dissolve. Then he noticed it. A small tag inside the seam, barely visible. A scrap of something. Black poked out near the leg. Tugged at it. It came loose, a thin strip of photo film, curled tight and brittle with age. A negative. Alex froze. He grabbed his phone, took a picture of it against a bright screen, then adjusted the contrast until the inverted image appeared. It showed two boys, identical twins, standing on a dock. One smiled. One looked away. Behind them, a man with a blurred-out face, as if he'd moved during the exposure. The edge of a sign was just barely visible in the frame. Twin Lakes Fishing Camp. Cabin 7. Alex dropped the phone. They'd never been to Twin Lakes, not in any memory he had. But Ben had talked about a place with that name once when they were little. A dream maybe, or something whispered to him late at night. I had a dream we were fishing. Ben had once. He said, but there was someone behind us. He didn't have a face. By midnight, Alex had made his decision. He packed a small bag, grabbed the note and the photo strip, and took the fox. He called in a personal leave of absence from work and booked a room at a roadside motel in Lindale, just 15 minutes from the old family farmhouse, before bed. He wrote something in his notebook, a habit his therapist had once encouraged him to do when the past got too loud. What if they took the wrong one? He stared at it, then underlined it twice. In the dark motel room, Alex lay on his back, the fan rattling overhead. Outside, cicadas buzzed in the September air, and a train howled somewhere distant. He didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling because 32 years ago, he had slept through it. He had slept through his brother being taken from the bed above him. No memory, no sound, nothing. And now, someone out there wanted to remind him of that. Someone who still knew the difference between them or didn't. September 11th, 2024. Location, Lindale, Vermont. The farmhouse hadn't changed much. The white paint had faded to a ghostly gray. The roof sagged on the west side, and weeds had taken over what was once a vegetable garden. But the bones were the same, 2 stories, a wide porch, the creak of old wood beneath your boots. Alex parked his rental car at the base of the gravel driveway and just sat there for a moment, watching the house like it might look back. The key still worked. His mother had never changed the locks after she left. He stepped inside and inhaled. It smelled like dust, pine, and something fainter. Time, maybe. Time that had folded in on itself and never quite moved forward here. The living room still had the same floral couch with sunken cushions. The same yellow lamp with a cracked shade. Even the family photos were still on the wall, though the colors had bled under the glass with years of exposure. But Alex didn't linger. He walked past it all, straight down the hall to the last door on the right, his old bedroom, the place where Ben had vanished. The room was colder than the rest of the house. The curtains were shut, but faint daylight bled in around the edges. The bunk bed still stood against the far wall, dusty but intact. Alex stepped in slowly. The bottom bunk had once been his. It still had the navy blue sheets with faded rocket ships. The top bunk, the one Ben had vanished from, was stripped bare. The mattress was stained, the springs exposed through torn fabric. He stood there a long time. Then, like muscle memory, he turned toward the window. It looked out over the back field where their dog scout used to run, where they'd built snowmen, where they'd once buried a time capsule that was probably still out there somewhere beneath the grass. Alex crouched and examined the window frame. He'd read the police reports, studied the photos. The latch had been unlocked. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the dirt outside, though it had rained that night. But the wood looked different now. Older, yes, but something else. He leaned closer. There was a tiny, perfect circle, no larger than a cigarette burn, just beneath the latch. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small pen light. He aimed it at the hold, clean and precise. It's not natural decay, not rotted mechanical. Cut into the inner part of the latch mechanism. Alex stood up, heart thudding. lock had been tampered with from the outside, the latch disabled without needing to break glass or force it open. He took out his phone and snapped several photos from multiple angles. This wasn't a sloppy kidnapping. This was surgical. Back downstairs. He pulled a folding chair into the kitchen and set up his laptop at the table. He brought up the original police case file on the screen. There was no mention of a drilled hole knot in the reports. It's not in the evidence photos, which meant two things. Either it was missed in 1992, or it was done after the abduction. Either way, someone had returned to this house, maybe more than... Once Alex opened another folder marked Persons of Interest. Ben's abduction had produced a few suspects over the years: a neighbor with a prior, a local janitor who disappeared shortly after, a teacher with questionable behavior. None of them had panned out, but the notes on one in particular stood out now. Harold Mooney, age 51, in 1992, lived 3 houses down, single, kept to himself, owned power tools, and worked part-time at the hardware store in town. Police had searched his home, found nothing, and let him go. But here's what bothered Alex. Harold Mooney had died in 1995, found in a motel in Connecticut. Just off I-84, no foul play, just a bottle of bourbon and an old revolver. The note he left behind was one sentence long: "I took the wrong one." Alex had always assumed that referred to something else, an affair, a child he'd lost. The report had been buried in an unrelated incident file. But now he opened the photo of the window latch again and zoomed in. That wasn't the work of a drunk. It was trained, measured, intentional. He needed fresh eyes. Alex drove into town and found the Lindale Police Department. Now just a single-story brick building with a sagging blue awning and a Back the Blue sticker on the glass door. Inside, a woman in her late 50s looked up from behind a desk. She wore a beige cardigan and a badge that read M. Dunlop. "You're one of the Kane boys, aren't you?" she asked. Alex nodded. "Alex, I was hoping to speak with someone about the old case, my brother Ben's disappearance." Dunlop's face softened. "Of course. I remember you. We all do. No one ever forgot that case." She motioned him back toward a small room with coffee-stained chairs and a bulletin board covered in safety pamphlets. "Let me see who's on duty." A few minutes later, an older man walked in, white hair, heavy-set, tired eyes that had seen too much. "Sheriff Carl Hadley," he said, "retired, but I still poke my head in sometimes." "You're here about the night Ben went missing?" "I found something," Alex said, "in the window latch. Something no one noticed." Hadley listened quietly as Alex showed the photo on his phone. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "We didn't have tech like that back then," he muttered. "Didn't even dust the inside of the frame. You assumed if there was no break-in, the kid walked out." "But he didn't," Alex said. "He wouldn't have." Hadley nodded slowly. "No, I never believed that either." Alex hesitated. "Did you ever find another note?" The sheriff froze. Then, after a long pause, he sighed. "I wasn't supposed to keep it. The FBI said it wasn't verifiable, might have been a prank, but yes. We got a second note left on our station doorstep 3 days after the abduction. It said wrong one. Fix it soon." "Why wasn't it in the case file?" "Because I was told to keep it quiet," Hadley said. "Higher-ups said it would cause panic, make it look like we were covering something. But I remember thinking, even then, wrong one. What the hell did that mean?" Alex swallowed hard. "I think I know." That night, Alex returned to the house and stood beneath the bedroom window with a flashlight. He scanned the foundation, the grass, the edge of the porch, and something caught the beam. A thin wire caught in the crack of the siding, barely visible. He followed it to a rusted metal box buried in the dirt, disguised under a slab of broken brick. He knelt, brushed the soil away, and lifted it. Inside was a worn cassette tape labeled in black marker, "Ben, Night 1, July 19th, 1992. Cabin 7. Alex felt his entire body go cold. He stared at the tape for a long time, listening to the sound of his own breathing. Then he whispered to no one, "You were never supposed to be taken, were you?" September 12th, 2024. Location, Lindale, Vermont. Alex couldn't sleep. The cassette. Tape sat on the kitchen table, coiled like a snake.
Us!
Dust clung to its edges. The handwriting on the label had faded, but it was unmistakable. Ben. Night 1, July 19th, 1992. Cabin 7. His fingers trembled as he brushed it clean. He didn't have a player. He considered taking it to town the next morning, maybe the library, maybe the local pawn shop, but the thought of the tape leaving the house, even for a second, made him nauseous. Instead, he sat there for hours, staring at it, replaying every memory he had of that summer. The problem was, he couldn't remember the night Ben disappeared, not truly. He'd been asleep in the bottom bunk. That's what the police report said. That's what his parents had always told him. But the truth? He remembered nothing, no dreams, no sounds, just waking up to his mother screaming from the hallway. By sunrise, he was back at the Lyndale Library. The librarian, a pale man, with thick glasses and a quiet voice, led him to the back corner of the archive section. "You're lucky," he said. "We keep this one running for transfers. Most people just digitize these things now." He gestured to a dusty gray Sony TCWE 475 cassette deck. Alex handed him the tape. "Can I listen in private?" The librarian hesitated. "Normally, no," but he glanced at the label. "I think this one's personal." He gave Alex the small side room near the genealogy desk. The tape clicked into place with a dull thud.
Alex
plugged in the headphones, heart hammering. Then he hit play. Click, hiss, static. Then a voice, a child's. "My name is Ben. I'm 5 3/4." Alex gripped the headphones. The voice was high, nervous, exactly as he remembered. The man said, "I can sleep here tonight. Miss my brother." He said, "I can't call Mommy yet, but maybe tomorrow." There was movement, a distant clatter. Another voice entered a man's muffled, "Okay, buddy. Time to say goodnight. We'll try again tomorrow. You did good today." Ben whimpered, "I want Alex." The tape paused. The man said something unintelligible, then the sound of a door locking. Alex slammed pause. His ears rang. Ben had been alive, awake, speaking, and someone had recorded it. Back at the farmhouse, he sat on the porch steps, phone in hand, debating his next move. Sheriff Hadley had admitted the second note existed, but there were more questions now than answers. He scrolled through his contact list and found the name Marie Kane, his mother. No. He hadn't spoken to her in 6 years. His thumb hovered over the call button, but before he could press it, a voice broke the silence. "You came back." Alex turned. A woman stood at the edge of the driveway, late 50s, short gray blonde hair, denim jacket. She carried a box under one arm. "Mrs. Lockhart?" he asked. She smiled. "Call me Karen. I was your second-grade teacher." Alex stood, awkward. "I remember you. You taught Ben and me multiplication." Karen climbed the steps. Her smile faded. "I always hoped one day he'd come home." She handed him the box. "I kept this for too long, probably. Thought you should have it." Inside were drawings. 2 stick-figure boys labeled me and Ben, a paper with jagged red crayon. Ben said we should trade rooms. Alex's brow furrowed. "He said we should trade rooms." Karen nodded. Was saying it a lot that week. Said someone had been watching your window at night. I thought maybe if he slept there, the man would go away. Alex went cold. "No one ever mentioned that." Karen hesitated. "Told your parents." "Your mother said Ben had nightmares, that it was nothing." But it wasn't nothing. Ben had been trying to protect him. That afternoon, Alex returned to the police. Station Sheriff Hadley was outside, sipping coffee from a foam cup. "I need to see the original files," Alex said, unedited. "Everything you weren't allowed to put in the official report." Hadley didn't even argue. He led Alex inside through a back hallway and into a storage room lined with old filing cabinets. Cabinet E, bottom drawer. Alex knelt. Squealed open. The folders were brittle, the paper yellowed. He found it. Kane, Benjamin, 92 Miss 021. He flipped through photos. Witness interviews, and then he found it, a scanned copy of the second note typed, not handwritten, wrong one. "Fix it soon." Alex held it up. You said it was dropped off at the station? Hadley nodded. No fingerprints, no fibers, just this. Someone slid it through the door slot late at night. I was here, heard the thunk. Did you ever investigate the implication? Alex asked. Someone had intended to take me instead. Hadley sighed. We tried, but there wasn't much to go on. Your parents didn't want to believe it, and you were too young to remember. Alex stared at the note. What if they were targeting twins? Identical twins. Hadley blinked. What makes you say that? Alex opened his laptop and pulled up his own records. Between 1989 and 1994, 3 children disappeared from Vermont and New Hampshire. All boys, all near the same age, all from homes where identical twins lived. Hadley leaned closer. You think someone was collecting twins? No, Alex said. I think they were looking for something specific, but they kept getting the wrong one. That night, as a storm rolled in over the hills, Alex returned to the farmhouse. One more time, he stood in the bedroom, staring at the bunk beds. Then he lay down on the bottom bunk, just as he had the night Ben vanished. Rain tapped against the window. The house creaked, and then he heard it. A footstep upstairs. September 12th, 2024. Location: Lindale. The sound was faint. Just one footstep directly above him.
Alex.
Froze on the bottom bunk. Breath locked in his throat. Rain peppered the windows. Wind hissed through the frame and the house groaned with age. But that sound had weight. He waited, listened. Then another step upstairs. Slow, deliberate. Alex sat up in one motion, heart pounding. He grabbed the flashlight from his duffel and crept into the hallway. The floorboard outside the bedroom squealed beneath his foot. Hello, silence. He climbed the staircase carefully, one step at a time. The second-floor landing felt colder than the rest of the house. Like the temperature had dropped by 10 degrees, a shadow shifted under the door to the attic crawl space. It had always been their low door, barely 5 feet tall, hidden behind the linen shelf at the end of the hall. Their father had kept it bolted. Just insulation and rats, he'd told them. But that bolt was undone now. Alex reached for the knob, turned. The attic smelled of mothballs, wood rot, and old insulation. He aimed the flashlight upward, past the cobwebs and exposed rafters. The beam landed on something rectangular, wedged between beams. A dusty metal locker. Alex climbed over warped plywood and ducked under a low beam. The locker was military green. A chain hung from its latch. Pulled it open. Inside was a stack of VHS tapes, a small, reel-to-reel audio spool, and a file folder labeled Project. Janus, file number 017. His hands trembled. He sat cross-legged, blew dust from the folder, and flipped it open. Inside were black and white photos of identical twins, roughly ages 4 to 10, posing stiffly in institutional rooms. Each photo was labeled Subject A, Subject B. The pages beneath contained medical evaluations, notes in shorthand, diagrams of brain scans, behavior patterns, and phrases like tested limits of separation. Subject A expressed strong identification with B, and Subject B failed to demonstrate expected bonding to handler. Relocation initiated. Subject A retained for extended trial. Alex flipped to the last page. It was a checklist. Kane, Benjamin, acquired July 92. Kane, Alexander, not acquired. Protocol error, reassign. The flashlight dimmed. He reached for new batteries. Then he saw it, scratched into the underside of the locker lid in jagged, uneven letters. I'm still here. Back downstairs, the storm had passed. Alex laid out the tapes on the dining table. There were 4 in total. Princess Room Volume 3. Princess Room Volume 5. Kane, Ben, Trial 1. Kane, Ben, Trial 2. The 5th was unlabeled, just a strip of masking tape with the date. November 12th, 1999. He didn't have a working VCR. Not here, but he knew someone who might. At 8:41 p.m., the sign read, Foley's Fix It and Film. We still watch VHS. The store was cluttered with towers of electronics, old monitors, game consoles, and obsolete formats. Behind the counter sat Ed Foley, a man who looked like he hadn't Left 1987, Alex placed the tapes on the counter. I need to watch these now. Ed frowned at the worn plastic. You a cop? No, then I don't want trouble. We don't play tapes from weirdos unless the weirdos pay cash up front. Alex pulled out two $100 bills. Let's get weird, Ed said, flipping the open sign to closed. The back room was dark except for a single monitor and a rolling VCR cart. Ed inserted Kane Ben Trial 1 and pressed play. The screen flickered. The footage was grainy, time-stamped July 20th, 1992. Ben sat in a white room, on a small chair facing the camera. He wore gray pajamas, his hands folded in his lap. A woman's voice off camera said, "What's your name?" "Ben Kane." "Where's your brother?" "I don't know." "Do you miss him?" "Yes." "Do you want to be the strong one?" Ben hesitated. "Will I get to go home?" The camera zoomed in slightly. The voice returned softer. "If you're the strong one, we'll send Alex home instead." Ben's eyes welled. No, he's scared of being alone. Then be brave for him. The screen went black. Ed looked at Alex, jaw slack. "What the hell is this?" "Proof," Alex said quietly, "that they took the wrong one." He watched the rest alone. The second trial tape showed Ben drawing pictures of their house, being asked over and over who he missed, what he feared, what he dreamed. Every answer led back to Alex. The Princess Room tapes were worse. They showed a pink room, walls painted with castles and clouds. Ben lay in bed while an unseen handler whispered instructions. "Pretend it's your kingdom. You're the prince. Say it. I'm the prince." "What does the prince do?" "He watches, he stays." "Say it again." "I stay." Alex shut it off. His hands were shaking. Ben hadn't just been kidnapped. He'd been rewired. He stepped out into the night air, unsteady. Rain still hung in the trees, glistening under the street lamp. His phone buzzed, Dan unknown. "Number," he answered. A voice muffled, distant, said, "You're getting too close. He's not what you remember." The line went dead. Alex stood there, frozen. It wasn't a warning. It was a promise. September 13th, 2024. Location: Lyndale, Vermont. The phone call haunted him all night. "You're getting too close." "Ah!" He's not what you remember, not who, not where, what. Alex lay on the motel bed, staring at the water stains in the ceiling. Tiles, the room cold, despite the heater rattling in the corner. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ben's face on the VHS screen, small, afraid, obedient. That wasn't his brother anymore. That was a shell built by repetition and silence. Whoever had made that call hadn't denied anything. They had warned him Ben might still be alive, but they had done something to him. And if Alex kept digging, he was going to find out what. The next morning, Alex returned to the Lyndale police department with one name in mind: Linda Turin, age 77, retired 911 dispatcher. She'd taken the original call in 1992, the morning Ben went missing. And according to an archived interview Alex uncovered last night, she'd received a second call 2 days later, one that was never logged, never transcribed, never included. In the official file, he asked Sheriff Hadley if he knew where she lived. "Up near Carter Ridge," Hadley said, squinting into the sun. "Wooden house, blue shutters. Can't miss it. Tell her I said hi." Carter Ridge looked like the kind of road people forgot on purpose. The asphalt ended 2 miles in, giving way to gravel and overgrown brush. Her mailbox was rusted shut. The flag hung limp. But the house was exactly as Hadley described, withered with blue shutters and a wind chime made of forks. Alex knocked twice. A woman answered, wearing a thick cardigan and oversized glasses. She looked cautious but not unkind. "I'm Alex Kane," he said. "Ben's brother." Linda's expression shifted instantly. She stepped aside and motioned him in. The inside of her house was quiet, filled with clocks, dozens of them. Grandfather clocks, cuckoo clocks, small mantelpieces, none of them ticking. "Stop winding them," she said, leading him to the odd kitchen. "Too much noise in my head already." Alex sat at the table. "I found a record that you received another call after my brother disappeared." Linda nodded slowly. "Yes, but no one believed me, or they didn't want to." "What did the caller say?" She stared past him for a moment, then folded her hands. It was a woman, calm like she was talking in a church. She said he wasn't the right one. He won't stop crying. Keeps asking for his twin. Alex's jaw clenched. Then she said, I made a mistake. He doesn't adapt. Adapt to what? Alex asked. Linda shrugged. She never said, just that he couldn't stop talking about you. She sounded disappointed, like she'd bought the wrong appliance. You traced the call? It came from a payphone outside a truck stop off Route 219. By the time I got someone to check, it was cold. Why wasn't this in the report? Linda's eyes darkened, as the FBI told me not to log it, said it was unconfirmed and would interfere with their profile. Said it sounded like a crank, but you knew better. I'd been answering phones. For 22 years, I know what a lie sounds like, and that wasn't one. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a small notebook, leather-bound, frayed at the corners. I wrote it down anyway, in case someone ever came back. She flipped to a page marked July 21st, 2:16 a.m., and slid it across the table. The final line read, he asked for Alex in his sleep. On the way back down Carter Ridge, Alex parked. Near the truck stop from the old call trace, the lot was now a firewood yard. The payphone, long gone. But he wandered behind the building and found something startling. An old bulletin board. Rusted and forgotten, nailed to the back wall. Beneath torn flyers for dog grooming and mechanic work, he found a strip of yellowed tape with faded black ink and 3 crooked words. Princess Room. His blood ran cold. Back in town, Alex returned to the farmhouse and dug out the last tape. He hadn't watched the unlabeled one. He hesitated, sat down, and pressed play. Black screen, muffled static, then footsteps. A camera moved through a narrow corridor, pink lights lining the ceiling, the same corridor from the tapes he'd found in the attic. The frame shook as the person holding the camera stopped at a locked pink door. A key turned. The door creaked open. A girl, maybe 14, sat on the floor, drawing. Her blonde hair hung in knots. Her pajamas were too small. She looked up, startled, and said, "You're not him." She dropped the crayon. The cameraman whispered, "Where's Ben?" The girl stood slowly, pointed at the corner, and that's when the lens shifted, revealing a narrow crawl space behind a curtain of stuffed animals. A shape moved inside, someone hunched, thin, shirtless, watching the wall. Then the frame jumped. The footage cut to black and stayed that way. Alex sat frozen, replaying the final image in his mind. It had been recent, no, time stomp, but the girl's clothes were modern. The camera was digital, not analog, which meant Ben might still be there. He called Sheriff Hadley. "There's more," Alex said.
More than we thought.
"Tell me everything," Hadley said.
Alex.
Looked at the paused frame at the crawl space. "Only if you promise we go in." Hadley didn't hesitate. "Tomorrow morning. I'll bring a team." As Alex ended the call, he noticed something in the corner of the paused video frame. A drawing taped to the wall. 2 boys holding hands, labeled in crude block letters. Ben plus Alex equals same soul. September 14th, 2024. Location, Lindale, Vermont. The coffee at the sheriff's station was weak, but the gravity in the room was not. Sheriff Hadley stood at the head of the long oak table in the back conference room, flipping through manila folders, each labeled with a name and a year. Alex sat at the other end, shoulders hunched, watching every page. There were others. Hadley said, "That's what you were trying to tell me? You're right. These files were always different cases that didn't line up. Cleanly missing kids with weird details. Never solved, never closed." He laid the first file flat. Colton Hughes, 1989, Bennington, Vermont, age 6. Disappeared from a locked house during a thunderstorm. Twin brother Evan was unharmed. No sign of forced entry. Second file. Nathan Poole, 1990, Exeter, New Hampshire, age 7. Vanished during a camping trip. Tent zipped from the inside. Twin brother Adam found asleep beside him. Claimed he never woke up. Third file. Mason and Tyler Ridge, 1991, Waterville, Maine, age 5. Both went missing. Only Mason returned 48 hours later, alone, with no memory of where he'd been. Still in his pajamas, shoes missing. Lex leaned forward. That one, Ridge. The one who came back. Hadley nodded grimly. Tyler was never found. Alex tapped the table. Where is Mason Ridge now? They tracked him through DMV records and a work history database. Mason Ridge, 38 years old, was living under a new name in Cranston, Rhode Island. Michael Turner, electrical engineer. No criminal record, no press. He had changed his name at 22. Alex found his office number listed under a small tech firm outside. Providence. He didn't call. Drove. It was raining when he pulled into the cracked parking lot of Ridgeway Electrical Solutions, considering the name. Alex walked in and asked for Michael Turner. A woman at the front desk pointed toward the break room. He found a man near the vending machine, microwaving soup. He looked up, startled. Mason? Alex asked. The man's eyes narrowed. I go by Michael. Alex stepped closer. My name is Alex Kane. My brother Ben disappeared in 1992, I think. Michael's face paled. Don't say another word. Not here. He dumped the soup in the trash, grabbed his coat. Follow me. They sat in the front seat of Michael's car, windows fogging as the rain thickened. Michael lit a cigarette with shaking hands. I knew someone would find me eventually, he said. It's happening again, isn't it? Alex nodded. They took the wrong twin in more than one case. Michael stared straight ahead. They told us we were special, that only one of us would get to stay. Who told you that? A woman in a gray dress? Smelled like lavender? She came to our house a week before it happened. Said she was with the education board. Gave my parents pamphlets. Said they were running a gifted study for identical twins. Alex's pulse quickened. They let her in. Michael nodded. Me and Tyler puzzles, memory tests, asked who we'd save if the house was on fire, our parents or our twin. Alex felt sick. They came that night, Michael said. The same week, it was raining. I woke up in a dark room. Tyler wasn't there, just toys lined up on the floor. I started screaming. I don't remember anything else. When I came to, I was on the side of the road near a gas station, still in my pajamas. It was like someone hit reset. You said it's happening again, Alex said. Why? Michael reached into the glove box and pulled out an envelope no stamp, just like Alex's. Inside was a single note. You still owe us one. That night, Alex returned to the farmhouse. He stood in the boys' old room, staring at the bunk beds again. The cassette of Ben's voice echoed in his mind. I want Alex. Everything had been a substitution, a trial, a selection. They weren't just taking children. They were taking reflections, the ones who fit, the ones who bonded, the ones they could reprogram. And the wrong ones? They were returned or silenced? Alex sat on the floor, staring up at the ceiling, and whispered, I wasn't supposed to stay. His phone buzzed a blocked number. He answered. Silence, then a boy's voice, soft and unfamiliar. Is your name still Alex? Alex's breath caught. Ben. But the line clicked dead. September 15th, 2024. Location, Lindale, Vermont. Alex said. Heard of Project Janus before? Only in fragments. A redacted name in a medical ethics archive. A whispered theory on a closed psychology forum. Once on a conspiracy subreddit where someone claimed their twin disappeared into a basement program. But no one ever had proof until now. The file folder from the attic was labeled Project Janus, file number 017B. Inside, beneath the photos, in brain diagrams, he found a second label. Division of Developmental Behavioral Genetics. 1984 to 1995, classified. Sheriff Hadley arranged a quiet meeting with an FBI contact in Montpelier. The man was gray-suited, gaunt, and spoke like everything was being recorded. He looked through the folder in silence for nearly 10 minutes. Then he closed it and said, Where did you get this? Off the record? Alex asked. No such thing, the agent replied. Hadley cleared his throat. Come on, Bill. A pause. Then the agent leaned forward. Project Janus was one of those legacy programs that everyone pretends never existed. A collaboration between a defunct psychiatric board and a no-defunded military psychological unit. It focused on split identity theory, Alex frowned. Split identity? Not like schizophrenia, the agent clarified. More like functional psychological partitioning. They believed identical twins, under the right conditions, could be manipulated to mirror each other's emotional states at will. One twin would be the anchor. The other could be reshaped to match. Reshaped how? Through isolation, repetition, rewards, and punishment, the agent said. They called it imprint conditioning. The goal was to test if emotional development and loyalty could be externally redirected. Loyalty to who? Hadley asked. To the handler? To the system? To an ideology? It doesn't matter. They wanted to prove personality could be redesigned from scratch, and they used twins. The agent nodded, because twins start with the same DNA, same baseline. That's what made the experiment clean, in theory. One would be removed, conditioned. The other left behind as the control. And the left behind twin like me? Alex asked. What happens to him? The agent sighed. He forgets or tries to. Alex leaned back, heart racing. So you're saying Ben was conditioned to become someone else? To become whoever they told him to be? The agent replied, if the subject bonded successfully, they stayed in the program. If not, they were returned, erased, or worse. Hadley spoke up. There's more. We have video footage recent. The agent's gaze sharpened. You found the princess room. Alex pulled a still frame from the tape. The pink door, the child drawing, the crawl space. The agent's face paled. Where is this? Beneath my family's house, Alex said, in Lindale. The agent stood abruptly. You need to leave the house now. Don't touch anything else. Don't go down there alone. Why? Because that program was terminated officially in 1995, the agent said. And nothing this sophisticated just disappears. Someone kept it going off the grid. He paused. And they still have your brother. Alex didn't listen. That night he returned to the farmhouse alone, not because he didn't believe the agent. He did, but something had changed in him since watching those tapes, something deeper than fear. Ben had asked for him in that tape, and again on the phone. If there was even a chance he was still alive, some version of him. Some flickering soul behind the conditioning Alex had to see for himself. He waited until after midnight, then entered the basement. The workbench looked undisturbed, dust settled evenly over the shelves. But the floor beneath the washer still bore the slight discoloration from where the false panel had been removed. Alex knelt and pressed his hand against the wall. He felt the cold edge of the hidden latch again. This time, he was ready. He brought gloves, a crowbar, and a flashlight. He popped the latch and pushed the panel open. The passage yawned before him, narrow, cramped, lined with peeling pink fairy lights. The scent hit him instantly. Mildew, metal, and something sharper, the smell of confinement. He stepped inside. The air was heavy, unnaturally still. His boots pressed into a thin carpet of dust and soft fibers. The walls were soundproofed with foam panels and cloth insulation. He passed drawings taped to the walls, childlike scrawls of two boys. Always labeled Ben plus Alex, always with a sun and a dark cloud beside them. The corridor ended at the pink door. It had stickers castles, bears, and a faded name scrawled. In glitter pen, the princess room. Alex knocked. No answer. He opened the door. The room was empty, just a mattress on the floor, Disney bedding, and walls painted in soft pastel pink. Toys were arranged neatly, crayons in color order stuffed, animals along the edge of the rug. A tripod stood in the corner, its camera mount empty. On the far wall was a mirror, but not just any mirror, two-way glass. Alex could see the faint outline of a room on the other side. He stepped closer. Behind the glass was another room, identical pink, but with a boy sitting on the bed. Alex's breath caught in his throat. The boy looked up, and Alex stared into his own face, thinner, paler, eyes vacant, but his. He reached out and touched the glass. The boy tilted his head. Alex whispered, Ben. The boy mouthed something. Alex couldn't hear it. He pressed his ear to the wall, nothing, soundproofed. He banged the glass. Ben, it's me, Alex. The boy flinched. then slowly smiled. Not a child's smile. A man's, the kind that didn't reach the eyes. Then he stood, walked to the glass and raised his hand, pressed it to the mirror, palm to palm. Alex did the same. Her hands matched perfectly. Then the boy mouthed something again. "Which one are you?" September 15th, 2024. Location: Lyndale, Vermont. Kane residence. Alex didn't move. His palm stayed pressed to the glass, skin against its cold reflection, mirroring the boy behind it, Ben. Or someone who looked exactly like him. Their eyes met, and Alex realized something chilling. The boy wasn't trying to escape. He wasn't begging for help. He was watching him, studying him, like he was the one in the observation room. "Ben, is it you?" Alex whispered again. The boy's mouth moved soundlessly. "Which one are you?" Then a voice from behind him, low, flat, male, "Step away from the glass." Alex spun, heart slamming in his chest. But the hallway was empty. The voice hadn't come from behind. It had come from a small speaker grill embedded in the ceiling. He scanned the corners of the princess room and spotted it. A hidden camera mounted behind a pink flower sticker in the molding. The room was wired, still active. Someone was watching. He bolted for the door, tried to pull it open locked. Yanked harder, nothing. The latch had shut behind him automatically. "Alex Kane?" The voice crackled over the speaker. "You weren't supposed to come here." Alex stood in the center of the room, adrenaline crashing through his system. "Who are you?" "Static, then. Does it matter? You came for your brother, but he doesn't know you anymore." Alex stared at the glass. The boy Ben hadn't moved, still standing, still. Watching, hand now slowly lowering to his side. "I want to talk to him," Alex said. "Let me speak to him." "He doesn't speak without prompting. Not anymore. He only knows routine, obedience, submission." Alex's stomach turned. "What did you do to him?" "But you never could," the voice said. "We taught him to forget." Alex scanned the ceiling, found another grill, a light fixture with exposed wiring. He grabbed the tripod from the corner and jammed it into the base of the mirror. It cracked, but didn't break. "Careful," the voice warned. "If you shatter that glass, you won't see him again, and he won't survive the withdrawal." "What withdrawal?" The voice paused. "He's bonded to this room, to this rhythm. Without it, he becomes feral. What you think is love was conditioned. Through fear." Alex's voice trembled. "You stole him." "We didn't steal," the voice said. "We selected." Then faintly, a second voice broke through the speaker, female. Distressed. "He's off script." "He wasn't supposed to find it." Scramble, muffled arguing. Then static. Then silence. The lights flickered and the door unlocked. Alex stared at it, stunned. Then he ran. He burst back into the basement corridor, nearly tripping over the uneven rug. He didn't stop until he reached the washer in the open wall. As he climbed back into the main part of the house, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Private number. He answered. A whisper, Ben's voice. "Don't come back." "Get erased too." The line went dead. He barely slept. By morning, Sheriff Hadley and 2 FBI agents returned to the house in full tactical gear, with forensic kits and breaching tools. But when they pried open the panel, the corridor was gone, walled over, fresh drywall, wet paint, not even dust. On the floor. "How is that possible?" Hadley muttered, shining a flashlight along the now clean seam. Alex stood behind him, breath ragged. "I was just there," he whispered. He was right there. The FBI agent pulled out a scanner, swept it along the wall. There's no power draw, no heat signatures. If there was a room, it's been sealed airtight. "What about the speaker?" Alex asked. The voice. "Well, dust for wiring," the agent said. "But I'll be honest, this was cleaned by professionals, fast, deliberate. They left nothing behind except for him." The agent turned to Alex. "You sure it was Ben?" "I don't know," Alex admitted. "But he knew me, or some part of him did." Hadley stepped aside and motioned for Alex to follow. In the kitchen, the sheriff opened a small cooler bag and pulled out a manila envelope. "Got this from the old FBI archives. Someone ran a trace on one of the Project Janus staffers back in 2007, Dr. Eliza Voss. Disappeared after the project shut down." He slid over a photo, grainy. Zoomed in from surveillance footage. A woman in her 60s, gray bun long coat, standing outside a private boarding school in Connecticut. Behind her, a boy in a red jacket, identical to Ben. You think she's still running it? Alex asked. I think you're not the first one to go looking, Hadley said. And you might not be the last? Alex stared at the photo. His brother, if it was him, looked healthy, older. But in his eyes, that same hollowness, like he was still watching through glass. Back at the motel, Alex played the Princess Room tape again. This time, he wore noise-canceling headphones, focused only on the audio, boosted the background levels, and ran it through a forensic filter. That's when he heard a voice in the background, not the man from the speaker, not the girl. It was Ben, whispering, barely audible. I know who I am. I know who he is. Don't let them switch us again. Alex rewound, played it again, slower. Don't let them switch us again. He froze. How many times had it already happened? September 17th, 2024. Location, Cheshire Hill Academy, Connecticut. Room 218 didn't appear on the school's directory. There was a 216, a 220, but number 218. Alex had walked the east wing of Cheshire Hill Academy twice already before he saw it. A narrow door set between the janitor's closet and a staff break room, its number scratched faintly into the wood exactly. Like the code from the Project Janus file Hadley had handed him. Subject B. Transition to 218 under Voss after stability failure. He pressed his ear to the door silence. Then the faintest scrape, like a chair moving slowly across tile. He backed up and scanned the hallway empty. Then he picked the lock. It opened without resistance. Inside, sterile lighting, bare white. Walls and a faint medicinal smell. A classroom, a chamber. The walls were lined with file cabinets. Small steel tables stood in the center, no windows, no posters. A recording light blinked from the corner. A woman sat at the far end, her back to him, white lab coat, hair in a silver bun. She didn't turn. I was wondering when you'd come, she said, her voice calm, practiced. Alex froze. Dr. Voss? She stood and faced him. Her eyes were sharp, unbothered. I expected you sooner, she said. You're more like your brother. Then you realize. Where is he? She smiled faintly. Which one? Alex stepped closer. Ben. I saw him. You had him under the house? No, she said. You had him. We simply returned him when he failed integration. What integration? Emotional binding, neurocompliance, phase 4 conditioning, she said, like reciting from a textbook. Benjamin. Did not respond well once re-exposed to shared memory triggers you. Alex stared at her. So you walled him in? He's not in there anymore? She replied. Once we detect regression, we extract and reset. His fists clenched. He's my brother. Biologically, yes, but identity is formed by pattern, not blood. And Ben was patterned. Where is he now? She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped aside and opened a file cabinet drawer. She pulled out a slim binder and slid it across the table. Subject B. Kane Benjamin. Reassignment 2016. Alex opened it. Inside was a photo of Ben, at age 23's short hair, wearing a gray uniform, blank stare. Assignment location. Camp Sully's, MTN facility, Colorado. Program. Ouroboros Rehabilitation Unit. Role. Behavioral feedback agent, nonverbal. He scanned the documents. They painted a picture of someone who didn't speak, didn't sleep normally, and responded only to triggers involving twins, mirrors, and clocks. Ben had been reduced to a stimulus-reactive subject. What is Camp Sully's? Alex asked. A containment site for incomplete conversions, Voss said. We study those who failed to stabilize. You want to find them? Go west, but you'll need clearance. And if you step foot on that ground, they'll never let you out again. Alex looked up. Then why are you telling me all this? It's because you're part of the same pattern, she said. We watch all of you, those who were left behind. You're all just waiting to be activated. He left the room shaking. She didn't. Follow? She didn't need to. Everything she said was delivered like a message already mailed. That night, Alex booked a flight to Colorado. Hadley called as he boarded. "You sure about this?" he asked. "No," Alex replied. "But I know where the road ends now. You want backup?" "I don't think this is that kind of trip." Hadley hesitated. "If you find him, how will you know it's still him?" Alex looked out the window. "If he remembers me, even a piece of me." 2 days later, Camp Sulis emerged from the haze like something out of a Cold War ghost story. Fenced gates, military ID scanners, long gray buildings half sunk into mountain soil. Alex used credentials faked by Hadley's FBI contact. He entered under the name of a defunct psychological field auditor. No one questioned him. They were used to men like him, anonymous, quiet, buried in paper. Room 3A had no label, no lights. Just a metal tag on the edge of the door that read B17, active conditioning. Alex showed the ID. The guard nodded. "He hasn't spoken in years. Won't even blink at you. Waste of time." Alex entered. Ben sat in the center of the room on a stool, facing the wall. The light buzzed overhead. The sound of static filtered through unseen speakers. Ben was older, gaunt, paler than Alex remembered. A long scar traced beneath his hairline, like something had been opened and stitched. Alex stepped forward. "Ben," he said quietly. No response. He took another step. "It's me. It's Alex." Nothing. He crouched, reached into his pocket, and pulled out an old photo their last birthday together. Matching paper hats, 1 cake, 2 candles. He laid it on the floor between them. Ben blinked, just once. His hand dropped to the floor. He touched the photo, traced the edge with 1 finger, and whispered, "Which one am I?" September 20th, 2024. Location, Camp Sulis, Colorado. Ben's finger hovered on the edge of the photograph, tracing the waxy paper as if it were a living thing. His voice dry, hesitant, coated in the sterile silence of the room. "Which one am I?" Alex froze. It wasn't just a question. It was a fracture. Ben's eyes didn't meet his. They drifted, vacant, like someone unsure if what he saw was memory or hallucination. Alex crouched down, gently placing his hand over Ben's. "Your name is Ben Kane," he whispered. "You're my twin. You went missing in 1992. I've been looking for you ever since." Ben blinked again. A small tremor passed through his fingers, but no recognition. So Alex tried something else. Pulled a worn object from his jacket pocket, a broken toy whistle. Blue plastic faded with age, the last thing they'd shared before Ben vanished. He placed it in Ben's hand, and for the first time since he entered the room, Ben smiled. The reunion was short-lived. Outside room 3A, an alarm began to sound, low and rhythmic. A voice echoed over the intercom. "Unauthorized subject and restricted. Zone. Extraction in progress. Lockdown initiated." Alex's heart pounded. Someone had made the connection. The fake credentials didn't hold. He turned to Ben. "Can you walk?" Ben nodded slowly, then stood, like muscle memory, not freedom. Alex grabbed his arm, and they slipped out into the hall. Guards rushed the far end. Alex dragged Ben through a side door and down a narrow staircase marked archives. The room below was dark, humming with old servers and rows of file cabinets. Alex flipped through the closest one. Subject logs, brain scans, treatment charts, every child's photo. In black and white eyes hollow, names replaced with letters and numbers. Then he found it. Benjamin Kane, file B17. Princess Room timelines, test results. Notes from Voss and someone else signed only as Director C. Subject B17 demonstrates strong twin tethering response. Resistance to erasure via emotional anchor. A17. Consider full substitution attempt. Then a single red stamped page. Approved mirroring protocol. It's B17 and A17. Alex's hands shook. They hadn't just taken Ben Dade, tried to overwrite them both. In the back of the room, Ben stood beside a wall lined with mirrors, not glass. Observation panels. Behind one, dim red lights blinked. Ben turned, voice low. "They used these. Watched me. Alex walked to his side. Do you remember how to get out? Ben looked at him, something sharper in his expression now. You're the one they couldn't break. Alex stepped back. What? Ben blinked, then whispered, they thought. I was you at first. The air shifted behind them. The door burst open. Dr. Voss entered, flanked by two uniformed men in black. She raised a hand. Stop. Alex stepped in front of Ben. You're not taking him again. But Voss didn't speak to him. She spoke to Ben. B-17, she said softly. Return. To observation, this is a regression spike, nothing more. Ben's body trembled. Alex grabbed his shoulder. Don't listen. You're free. She's lying. Ben looked between them, then took a slow step forward toward Voss. Ben, Alex begged. Another step. Then Ben stopped, turned, and looked at Alex. I remember the whistle, he said quietly. Voss flinched. Ben raised the toy to his lips and blew a soft, broken sound. Then he turned and ran past her. Alex followed. They found an emergency exit in the sublevel rusted, alarmed, but no one followed. Outside, dawn was breaking over the Rockies. Alex and Ben stumbled into the trees, breathing hard, lungs full of cold mountain air. They kept running, didn't stop until the facility was just a silhouette behind the ridge. Later, hidden in an abandoned ranger outpost, Alex wrapped Ben in a blanket and lit a fire. You remember me now? He asked. Ben stared at the flames. I remember you pulling me out of the closet when we were 5. I got stuck. You didn't tell Mom. Alex smiled. Through tears. That was real. Ben's voice cracked. What if I don't remember anything else? Alex reached over and gripped his hand. Then we make new memories together. Ben's eyes glistened, but he nodded. One stayed, he whispered. One ran. Now we're both out. September 23rd, 2024. Location, Killington, Vermont, remote cabin. The cabin Sheriff Hadley secured for them sat deep in the woods, down a road barely wide enough for a truck. The windows were boarded, the signal was dead. No cameras, no roads in or out without eyes. Alex lit the fire, while Ben sat at the small table, sketching in a notebook like he used to as a kid. His drawings were quiet, repetitive. 2 boys, one always in shadow. I keep trying to remember, Ben said quietly, but some of the memories I don't think they were mine. Alex sat beside him. What do you mean? Ben turned the page, another drawing, 2 bunk beds, one empty. I remember waking up in your bed, not mine, over and over again. I remember being told I was Alex, that Ben was the one who disappeared. He looked up. They tried to make me forget who I was and replace me with you. Alex stared, stunned. They conditioned me using you, Ben whispered. You were the anchor, the original. I was the mirror. The next day, Hadley arrived with a cardboard box marked Confidential Evidence Archive. Room C, someone in the Bureau's back room wanted this gone, he said, but I pulled it before it was burned. Inside were profiles, dozens of them, each labeled with a year, a pair of twin names, and one redacted outcome. Ben flipped through them. Most of these kids were never reported missing. Hadley nodded. A lot of the families were part of something. They didn't understand. Some were lied to, others were paid. Alex scanned the files. Case 014, Naomi and Nora Kessler, 1988, Kansas. Case 031, Tyler and Mason Ridge, 1991, Maine. Case 004, Jonah and Jacob Wells, 1984, Oregon. He stopped. Wells, he muttered. I've seen that name before, Ben pointed. Look at the outcome column. Some were stamped. Subject A terminated. Subject B transferred. Alex looked up. They killed some of them. Or buried them in programs like List of Failures, the ones who couldn't hold the conditioning. Ben ran a finger over the stamped seal at the bottom. Project Janus, Sector 3, EDU Prep Initiative. These weren't experiments, he whispered. They were templates for something bigger. That night, Ben woke screaming. Alex jolted upright. Ben was sitting in the corner, gasping for breath, hands over his ears. What is it? Alex knelt beside him. I saw her again, Ben choked out. The woman? The one from before Voss? No, Someone else. Her name was in the dream. She said it over and over. Alex grabbed a pen and paper. Write it down. Ben scrawled 3 words, shaky and uneven. Mother August program. Alex stared at them. Does that mean anything to you? Ben nodded slowly. She used to sing, singing before they took me under, before they made me forget. He started to hum. A slow, rhythmic lullaby. Alex's stomach twisted. He remembered it the same lullaby their mother sang. Hadley returned the next day with an update. We were right about the Ridge case, he said. Mason, who we thought was the twin, returned. Wasn't Mason? Alex looked up. What? DNA results came back. The one who came back was Tyler, but they called him Mason for 30 years. You didn't even know. Ben's hands trembled. Alex turned to Hadley. What happened to the real Mason? Body was found. In a flooded root cellar 5 miles from their childhood home, they buried the wrong twin. Ben stood. This program didn't just erase us, it replaced us. Alex placed the final profiles across the cabin floor. 13 confirmed. Twin abductions from 1982 to 1995. 10 were officially labeled as unsolved disappearances. 3 were misidentified returns. 5 had no surviving records. He looked at Ben. We weren't the only ones who escaped. Ben met his eyes. Then we have to find the others. That night, Alex sat at the table alone. He opened the notebook again, flipping through Ben's sketches. One caught his eye. A face drawn in fine lines. A woman in a gray dress. Bun, no eyes just. Empty sockets. Below it, written in pencil, she said I was never real. September 27th, 2024. Location: Kane Family Farmhouse, Lindale, Vermont. The letter arrived with no return address. The envelope was plain, sealed with wax. Just one word written in cursive across the front. Benjamin. Ben hesitated before opening. Alex stood across the kitchen, watching him like the floor might give way beneath them. Inside was a single sheet of yellowed paper, faintly perfumed, folded twice, typed in black ribbon ink. To the one who wasn't chosen, it was never. About love. Never about family. You were patterns, mirrors, vessels. Benjamin was never meant to return. He was a misfire, a ghost in a broken frame, dead. But now that you found him, remember this. One must always stay behind. You have 2 weeks. After that, the correction will begin, Mother August. Ben's hands trembled. His voice was barely a breath. She knows where we are. Alex took the letter, scanned it again. There were no fingerprints, no smudges, no postmark. But the wax on the back had a faint imprint, a 2-headed silhouette Janus. That night, they debated leaving, running again. Ben said, No, I'm tired of being the echo, he said. She wants to erase us. Let her try. They sealed the windows, boarded the crawl space, locked every door. Hadley sent 2 armed officers to stay in the barn, just out of sight. Alex kept the shotgun under the bed. Ben slept in the same room now, on the top bunk, like before Full Circle, like nothing had changed, but everything had. 4 days passed. Then, on the 5th night, rain, not a storm. Just a cold, steady downpour that tapped at the roof like fingernails. At 3:14 a.m., the front door creaked open. Alex was up in seconds, gun ready. He found the door unlocked, and the air inside the farmhouse had changed, cold, wrong. He turned down the hall and stopped. Ben was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, still pale in his pajamas. Ben. No answer. Alex stepped closer. Ben, say something. Ben slowly raised a finger and pointed at the reflection, but the mirror was empty. Ben's reflection wasn't. There, Alex grabbed his arm and spun him around. His brother looked dazed. I heard her in the mirror. Ben nodded. She said you didn't belong here, that I had to choose. Alex took a breath. Then listen to me now. Don't let her in. Don't believe her. Ben's eyes watered. But what if she's right? She's not, Alex said. You're not the shadow. You're real. You're my brother. A long silence. And Ben looked at the mirror again. I'm staying, he said. No more running. The next morning, Ben was gone. No signs of a struggle, no broken windows, just a faint trail of wet footprints leading back to the mirror, a single phrase written in fog on the glass. I went instead. The police searched the woods. Adley pulled every satellite feed and nothing. No cameras showed anyone entering or leaving. Just as before, Ben vanished without a trace. Alex sat on the porch that night, holding the whistle in his hand, waiting for a sound that never came. Then, just before sunrise, his phone lit up blocked number, a single voicemail. He pressed play. Ben's voice, soft but calm. It wasn't a mistake. It was a test. You stayed? I went. That's how it's always been? Static. She's not done, Alex. She's still choosing. Alex returned to the farmhouse every year after that. He kept the place sealed, kept the room untouched. The mirror never fogged again. But sometimes, late at night, he'd sit by the bunk beds and blow the whistle. Just once and wait. January 3rd, 2025. Location: Quantico Cold Case Archives. A junior FBI analyst flipped through declassified material from the Project Janus program. One photo caught her attention. Benjamin and Alex Kane, 1986, birthday hats, matching eyes, a whistle between them. But the file was misfiled, listed under Mirror Substitution Initiative, subject returned, case unknown, stamped at the bottom, open status. Subject B17, location unknown. The analyst leaned back, then circled the file in red ink and wrote, "At." See also the Ridge case, the Wells twins, the Princess Room archives. Below it, she scrawled the last words of the report. One was always meant to stay.